Men's ice hockey got its first win of the season, and it was a newcomer who stole the show. And men's and women's soccer are closing in on MAC playoffs. Our analysts will give you their take on the team's chances. All this and so much more coming up on Bobcat Breakdown. Welcome into tonight's jam-packed episode of Bobcat Breakdown. I'm Sierra Goodwill. Our analysts tonight are Brian Schwartz and Chris Dacey. Guys, this is my favorite time of the year for Breakdown because not only will we get to talk about the end of the season for the fall sports teams, but also winter sports are getting into the swing of things.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Sierra. It's the best time of the year, right?
Definitely an exciting time.
So let's kick things off with men's soccer, who had been struggling to find its stride and the back of the net. But the Bobcats traveled to Manhattan on Saturday and defeated the Jaspers 1-0 to even out their conference record. Was this the biggest game and win of the season for Quinnipiac? Brian, start us off.
I'll tell you what, Chris. It was not the biggest game of the season. Yes, it was a huge win. Yes, Manhattan is the best team in the MAC right now. But Quinnipiac does not win that game if they don't beat Canisius on October 7th, 3-0. You know why?
Okay. That
team was having so much trouble scoring. 4 goals in 11 games before that Canisius game. They scored 3 there without Eamon Whalen, the top scorer.
So a 3-0 game against Canisius is their biggest game of the year?
I think because it gives them the confidence that they can beat teams like Manhattan. I don't think they beat a team like Manhattan without knowing that they could score points, score goals.
Okay. I mean, I give you that as a confidence booster, but this is Manhattan. They were second in the conference. They have been struggling to score a goal, and the person who scores that goal, Eamon Whalen. His first of the season. This is definitely the biggest game of the year. A team that has had 8 goals in 13 games to win a 1-0 game, that's huge. That's a huge confidence booster. It's even more of a confidence booster than this Canisius game you were talking about.
From here on out, it's a huge confidence booster. But to win that Manhattan game, they had to win that Canisius game. They had to score 3 goals in a game. They hadn't scored more than 2 goals in a game before then.
Okay, but you're saying this Canisius game is bigger than a Manhattan game. Manhattan's in second place in the MAC.
Well, they were in first.
They were in first before they lost to Ryder.
Right. It's huge. But to score and to beat Manhattan, that was without the Canisius game. They weren't going to get there. They were not going to get there. And now with Eamon Whalen, now they're set for the long haul.
Well, there is no doubt that was a weight off Eamon Whalen's shoulders, finally seeing a shot go in the back of the net, especially after the minor injury he had been battling all season long. But do you think he can single-handedly fix the scoring issues this team has been riddled with all year long?
I'll start off this one. I mean, like we touched on it before. They've had scoring issues throughout the year. I mean, I don't know if Eamon Whalen himself, can fix these scoring issues, but he can definitely help. He played 75 minutes in this game against Manhattan. I was there with Dylan Fearon, and just not even the goal scoring. It was just the little things that didn't even show up on a stat sheet. Him keeping possession, him hustling, trying to make runs. It will lead to goals, but will this solve the entire problem of goal scoring? That's to be seen. I don't know if one man can do that. It's definitely a help for this Bobcat team, but I don't know if one man can solve all these problems for this men's soccer team.
I 100% agree with you. It's certainly going to help, but it won't solve their issues. I mean, looking back at last year, Ryan Scheiderman was the second leader in goals. He had 5 on the team. He just graduated. Third highest was Rashawn Daly. He had 4 goals. Hasn't made much of an impact yet this season. So Eamon Whalen coming back is huge. Obviously, just like we talked about, their confidence is high. Just beating Manhattan, and he's scoring 3 goals against Canisius in the biggest win of the year, right?
No.
Yeah, right?
No.
Eamon Whalen is going to help, and he's going to help the scoring with a limited amount of games left to play, trying to make the MAC playoffs and trying to make a deep run into this postseason.
And another thing that has to be taken note of, Whalen has had this groin injury for most of this year. That has to be,
right.
They have to be careful with him. They don't want to have him re-injure that groin, because that's huge. You and I both played sports. We know that injuries, especially a groin injury, especially in soccer, where you're on your feet the entire time, that's a huge injury. That they have to make sure they take care of him.
The men's soccer team has 4 games left this regular season against Marist, Siena, Monmouth, and St. Peter's. All 4 of those teams are below them in the MAC standings. So, guys, will Quinnipiac lose another game before the playoffs roll around?
No, they're going to win out. They have 4 games.
Very bold.
It is bold. Marist, Siena, Monmouth, St. Peter's. Siena, Monmouth, and St. Peter's are at the bottom of the MAC conference. 3 of the bottom 4 teams. They will guaranteed win those games, no matter what. The Marist game is huge. Marist is 2-3 in the conference. The game is at home, so I think there's a good chance that they win that game. They're pretty even with Marist, so I think there's a good chance they win.
Okay. First, I'd like to point out it's not the MAC conference, just the MAC. The C stands for conference. But before I go into that, I mean, you can't just say they're going to. It's tough to say that they're just going to win out. My dad always told me never to bet on college sports because they're absolutely unpredictable. Speaking of which, unpredictable, Quinnipiac was picked to win the MAC, and they are in 5th place. So I can't say that they're going to win out. They're going to lose to this team. They're going to beat that team. It's just tough to say. I will agree with you. This game against Manhattan, the biggest game of the year for this team, gives them that confidence booster. I give them advantage in all these games, but I just don't have the confidence in this team to say that they're going to win out.
Not only is it a confidence booster, though, it shows that this.
It's the biggest game of the year.
It shows this conference is wide open.
Exactly.
I mean, the Manhattan was a top 2 team in the conference, and Quinnipiac came in and beat them 1-0. It shows that any team on any given day can get a win. Exactly. And I think also Chris Yakovides has been playing really well.
Oh, of course.
So I think that's another strong suit going into the last 4 games of the season. So if he continues to keep up that pace, Quinnipiac's got a good shot.
Made a huge save in that Manhattan game late to keep them in. Pretty much sealed the deal for the Bobcats stuff.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, I think that this season has been way too up and down for the men's soccer team to say that they're going to win out. I predict 2 wins, a tie, and a loss. But now onto the women's soccer team, who only has 2 games left this regular season. This Wednesday, Quinnipiac takes on 2nd place Manhattan, and then Canisius on Saturday, who only has 2 conference wins. How many points do you think the Bobcats take away from their last 2 games?
You know what? I'm going to be an optimist. I'm going to say 6 points. Okay. I think they win both games. I think they have to beat Manhattan to really get into the playoffs and be strong into the playoffs. And then Canisius, 2 wins in this conference. They're not a great team. I think Nadia Gill is the best player in the MAC, and she's going to prove why, and she's going to lead this team.
This goes back to my last point. It's just like I have trouble with these questions. I don't like to predict anything because, like I said, college sports are unpredictable. And this women's soccer team just lost to Iona, who is in last place. So I understand that Canisius is very low in the MAC right now too. Manhattan is obviously a little bit of a stronger team, but this women's soccer team is just absolutely unpredictable. And it's been like that all season. I agree with you. Nadia Gill is one of the best players in the MAC, but it's how those other players around her is going to play. How are they going to play? Like they come out here, they beat Niagara 4-0, but they lost to Iona 2-1, who's in last place. It doesn't make sense to me, and it's just and that being said, I can't just put a number on how much points they're going to get. That's just a tough decision for me.
But do you really think Dave Clark is going to let them go into these last 2 games unprepared?
He's obviously not going to let them go out unprepared.
They're going to come in strong these last 2 games because they need to. They need to win these last 2 games to have a confidence boost going into the postseason.
I know, but
try to make the postseason.
That inconsistency, they lost to Iona and then they beat Niagara 4-0. You know what that is?
Yeah.
Frustrating, as Dave Clark would say.
That's true.
It's frustrating.
That's true. Good accent.
Thank you.
Well, when we talk about this women's soccer team, we often talk about their offense. Nadia Gill, Al Pelletier, as you guys mentioned, but one player who doesn't often get a lot of credit is starting goalie Olivia Majszewski. She's had 4 shutouts this season, 68 saves on the year. Is Majszewski an all-MAC goalie?
No. I'll say it clear. She's not the all-MAC goalie. 4 shutouts, yeah, that's nice.
A little harsh there.
I'm sorry. Amanda Knob on Monmouth, 9 shutouts. Alana Rossi on Canisius, 8 shutouts. Taylor Dorado on Siena, 5 shutouts. Sorry. You can't win all
I actually do agree with you. I was just thinking you're just being a little harsh there. I mean this in the most sincere way. She's a very average goaltender. She's 4th in MAC in saves per game, shutouts per game, and it's 9th in save percentage. That being said, they would not be here without her production.
Absolutely.
That is 100% the truth. They obviously can't be where they are without their goalie. She's played well, but for all MAC goalie, I don't believe so. I don't think she has what it takes this year. There's just a lot of goalies to choose from.
No, she's very close, and she has been one of the best goalies in the conference, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
But I think a player like Amanda Knob on Monmouth, who's one of the top 2 teams in the conference, we said it before, 9 shutouts on the season, that clearly is better than Majszewski.
Yeah.
Well, it will definitely be interesting to see if Majszewski makes the cut, as she's certainly on the cusp of being an all-MAC player, but It is time for our first short break. Don't go anywhere because when we come back, we are talking college hoops and hockey.
Coming up on #that, we talk about some fun events around Quinnipiac's campus.
And we talk about some weird news that's been discussed around Twitter.
All that and more, we are your source for Quinnipiac's entertainment news.
Whether you're on the quad, in your room,
or heading to class,
tune in to Q30 News.
for stories by student journalists you can trust.
We are covering the latest here on campus and in surrounding areas.
Get the news you need to know every Wednesday night.
Hello, and tonight on Sandwich News, we will determine what makes a good sandwich and a bad sandwich. First, the standard sandwich. Uninspired, and frankly, a little gross. But we have here a Ray and Mike sandwich, the Cadillac of sandwiches. And if you want one, well,
come on down to Ray and Mike's at 3030 Whitney Ave, Hamden, Connecticut. Open every day from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. QCash is accepted.
now that's a sandwich.
Welcome back to Bobcat Breakdown. We are just a few weeks away from basketball season, and the Q30 Sports Beat reporters are working hard to introduce all the new faces. Brian had the chance to chat with men's basketball transfer Kevin Marfo to see how he is fitting in with the Bobcats.
The Quinnipiac Bobcats begin the 2017-18 campaign with plenty of new faces. Two have to sit out the season due to NCAA transfer rules. That's Kevin Marfo from George Washington and Travis Atson out of Tulsa. Marfo believes a new beginning was best in his decision to transfer to Quinnipiac and sit out this season.
Just for a brand new start, you know, I was like a top highly recruit, you know, so like I seen the big time, and it's just like, and I know like that's not really important, you know. I just want to go to a place where I was wanted and I was needed.
New head coach Baker Dunleavy wants Marfo and Atson to make the most of their redshirt year.
It's a balance, but I like to think that the positive outweighs the negative. We'd love to have them, but we'll find ways to make it productive.
Though they won't be on the court during games, Dunleavy thinks practice is just as good a time for learning.
What we like to do is evaluate strengths and weaknesses. Certainly continue to like build on those strengths, and then maybe pick 2 or 3 weaknesses that we're going to really hopefully turn into strengths.
Marfo wants to keep improving his overall game during the time not in uniform.
I'm getting better skill-wise shooting, handling, you know, just getting a better feel for the game.
One thing that has remained constant so far in practice is that the team has stayed together, no matter who is on the court.
We're a family, you know, we may fight, we may bicker at each other, but at the end of the day, we're like brothers in there, you know, and that's something I never had in a while.
Marfo and Atson will watch their brothers get their season officially going November 11th against Dartmouth. Reporting from the Quinnipiac Sports Center, Brian Schwartz, Q30 Sports.
Great job on that story, Brian. Other than Marfo and Atson, who have to sit out this season, there are 4 new faces on the Quinnipiac men's basketball team that are expected to play. Who do you think will have the biggest impact for the Bobcats this upcoming season?
You can take it first.
Isaiah Washington, grad transfer from Penn State. Graduated in 3 years, and he has 2 years of eligibility left. Now, his stats aren't that impressive, I'll give him that, but bringing in that Big Ten basketball background, that is one of the best, maybe arguably the best conference in the country. And you're playing against that competition, you're also practicing every day with better competition. I believe that gets you better. And he's going to bring that into Quinnipiac, and that's going to make Quinnipiac a contender, because all these players, I love to talk about the competitiveness in practice, and I believe Isaiah Washington brings a nice level of competitiveness to this team.
That's great that he's going to bring competitiveness, but I want skill. because...
You act like he doesn't have skill?
Oh, he has skill.
He came from Penn State. It's a Big Ten program.
That's great, but he never played. He barely played for Penn State.
He's good enough to make it for Penn State. You got to get a scholarship.
That's fine, but why didn't he play?
I don't know. I'm not the coach of Penn State. Why don't you go ask him?
Maybe I will. That's why I'm going with Rich Kelly, who is likely to be the starting point guard this season for the Quinnipiac men's basketball team. Rich Kelly.
Transferred someone else.
What?
One of the transfers was supposed to come here to transfer someone else. He wasn't going to be the original point guard.
Okay, well, now he is. Now he is. He's the point guard, went to Cheshire Academy, Fairfield Prep. He's a local kid. Baker Dunleavy's bringing him in. Baker Dunleavy has coached his fair share of point guards before. Ryan Archidiakono, Jalen Brunson. Those two guys won a national championship. Baker Dunleavy can develop point guards, and Rich Kelly can be that next guy that he develops. No, he's not going to become an Archidiakono or Brunson. He's not going to win a national championship. But if Rich Kelly can become even half the player that those guys are, which probably won't even happen, but if Rich Kelly could lead this team and be a solid passer, a solid scorer, why not?
Can I also point something out to you that Rich Kelly was not a Dunleavy recruit.
No.
He was a Tom Moore recruit.
Right.
So all I'm saying is I'm not saying that he can't develop him, but does he fit the system that Dunleavy wants? Because he wasn't a recruit of Dunleavy. So what is Dunleavy's opinion of him? Like, how is he going to fit in this offense? And he got all the transfers. How him and Isaiah Washington, or maybe next year down the road, how is Marfo going to fit in with him too? Like, and they also have more point guards coming in. We just had some commits come in.
Right.
So maybe for this year he can be a decent fill-in point guard, but you come in next year, he's got heavy competition.
He does have competition, but I think for this year specifically, he is going to be a big key because they don't have a guy like a Mikey Dixon or Peter Kiss that can really handle the ball well and bring the ball up the court. Yeah, Isaiah Washington could do it, but Isaiah Washington probably might play the two a little bit more as well. Rich Kelly can be that one point guard that can really change the game for this team this season.
We'll have to see.
Well, as we know, usually the first year with a new head coach can be a little rocky, even though this men's basketball team has been through some rocky seasons for quite some time now. But it does seem like Baker Dunleavy might make the positive turnaround come a little quicker than expected. Last season, the Bobcats finished 7-13 in conference, landing in 8th place. But how many wins do you think that this team will have this year?
So I see them in the MAC having around the same as last year.
Okay.
Because the MAC is so much weaker than it was. I mean, you look at teams like Marist, St. Peter's, who lost 4 seniors from last season. Ryder is weaker. Monmouth is even weaker after losing Justin Robinson, who's now playing professionally in Russia. Manhattan's going to be better after they struggled last year. Niagara's going to be good because we saw them in the MAC tournament and they dominated Quinnipiac in that first round playoff game.
They really did.
But this conference is a little bit weaker, and I could see Quinnipiac maybe getting to that 7-8 win range, getting lucky, beating up down the teams like Marist at the bottom of the conference.
Yeah.
And then I could also see them beating a couple of those out-of-conference teams like Lafayette, Columbia, Hartford, Drexel. Those are all winnable games.
I'm kind of on the same boat as you. They had 10 wins last year. I think they get a little bit more. I'd say about maybe even 15 wins. That would be a very successful season for them. It's a rebuilding year, obviously. It's the first year Baker Dunleavy's here. I'm more excited about next year with all these recruits that he's been getting in. But like I said, 15 wins overall, I think middle of the pack in the MAC. I see a lot of people picking Quinnipiac to finish bottom of the MAC, and I just don't understand that. They do have good players coming to this program. They aren't going to be great right away, but give them some time. They're going to be up there in a few years.
Yeah, they'll definitely be closer than they're predicted to be.
Oh, definitely.
Just to add my 2 cents in, I think the attitude and aura of this team have already changed, but obviously there is an adjustment period, so I say the men's basketball team has 10 wins in conference this season, 3 more than last. But let's move on to the other winter sports teams who have already begun. We are going to have some fun with these hockey topics. I'll ask you guys a question, and I want you to write one word on your whiteboards that you think best answers my question. The first one is about the women's ice hockey team who just swept Vermont at home this past weekend. What is their panic level, knowing that they have some key players out with injuries?
So I went with an emoji. I'm going a little 21st century right here. Okay.
Oh, I want to see this.
You want to see this?
I'm really excited.
My nice artwork. It's an angry face.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
What? No.
Yeah, it is.
All right.
It's an angry face. You know why? I am pretty panicked with this with these injuries. Quinnipiac needs TT Cianfrano back. She is the most important player on this Bobcats team. Cianfrano led the team in goals last year with 13, 26 points, second behind Sam Miskevich, Emma Woods, Megan Turner, Taryn Baumgart. 3 of the 4 next highest scorers on the team from last season, they're all gone. This team needs TT Cianfrano fully healthy and playing all the time if they want a shot to win this ECAC and to get far into the NCAA tournament.
I agree with you. I had to go with 2 words, and it's oh no, because BC is coming up on that schedule. That is a tough team. That's not a UVM. It's not a Providence. That is a BC team. That's a huge Hockey East game. And like you said, I agree with everything you said. You need those players back. Also, I have down here, you need Kenzie Prater back. She's a very physical player, too. She's on the boards, and that's what you're going to need against BC. And it's going to be tough without those 2 players. Those are your 2 best players right there. And against BC, one of the best teams in the country, it's not going to be easy.
Now on to the men's ice hockey team. I said earlier that a newcomer stole the show in Quinnipiac's overtime win with Vermont. Freshman Odin Tufto scored 2 goals in the win, but other than him, there hasn't been too much offensive production in the first 3 games of the year. So what is your confidence level in the Bobcats forwards? In 1 word.
Not 2 this time?
Not 2.
Oh.
I think we might have the same word.
Okay.
High. My confidence level is high. I have confidence in these forwards. Tufto showed poise last weekend. 2 goals in that game. He had the game-winning score there, and he's ECAC Rookie of the Week. That should give him some confidence. I mean, the other forwards on this team, Tanner McMaster, Whalen, Pieper, Smith, they've all been there before. They were here last year. Whalen and Pieper both scored against BU. Whalen also scored against Boston College. They're doing it against big-time Hockey East teams. So why not? These forwards can do it. They've been there in the bright lights before.
I mean, everything you said, that's pretty much what I have written down here. I mean, Odin Tufto, I'm excited to see what he has for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
2 goals, and the OT winner, that's no joke.
Right.
I'm excited, and hell of a name, by the way. That is, I don't know, I saw the tweet.
That's a hockey name.
That is a hockey name. I saw the tweet from MJ Baird, and I saw Odin Tufto. I was like, he's one of my favorite players now. And like you said, Whalen, he's improved from last year, and I'm excited to see what he can bring to the table this year.
Back to the women's side now. It seemed coming into the season that Abby Ives had the goalie position locked up. But freshman Allison Small has been getting some time in net, including all 60 minutes in Quinnipiac's latest 2-1 win over Vermont. So is there a goalie controversy on this team now?
I'm going to go simple. Nah, there's no goalie controversy here. Allison Small played nice. She played really well against Vermont. Okay, great. 1 goal allowed, 24 saves. Fine. She struggled against Maine, though, with 2 goals allowed. She didn't even finish the game. Abby Ives has been here before. She played last year a little bit behind Sydney Rossman. She is the starting goalie no matter what. Allison Small is going to play a little bit. She'll play when Abby Ives needs a day off. But Abby Ives is the goalie, and she's the goalie this year.
Yeah, there's no controversy. I'm the same way. That's Ives' net, as far as I'm concerned. She's a sophomore. She has the experience. If I was the coach, I'm going with Ives. I need that experience in net, especially with this BC game coming up. I can't stress how big that game is. So I need her in net, and that's who I'm trusting in net.
Right, because you don't have a Sydney Rossman that's been here for 4 years before. Ives is the most experienced of the 2. And I think you can't really throw a freshman out there when you're playing
that's a
against
huge
a big time
environment
team.
at
Right.
BC, too. And you just throw a freshman out there, that's a tough environment to play in.
Back to Tufto on the men's ice hockey team. Not only was he the hero during Saturday afternoon's win, but he had quite the celebration after he netted the overtime winner. Describe that celly in 1 word.
All right. I'm not a big fan of these huge celebrations, so I might be a little bit of a Debbie Downer.
Yeah, you are.
I went with It was all right. Fine. It's a regular season game. The opponent's not ranked. It's not even a conference opponent. And full celebration. They're seeing the slow-mo right there.
Dude. Come on. He's having
That's
fun.
cool. Sure.
Yeah,
I mean, give a high five, a little fist bump. That's all you need. I'm not a huge fan.
This was the most electric thing I've seen since Thomas Edison because, are you kidding me? You try it. You go, as a freshman, let me know. You go out there, score the game-winning overtime goal, and try not to be excited.
Oh, he can be excited. That's fine.
Yeah.
Give me a little high five, a little fist bump.
A little high five. You're gonna get excited and you're gonna give me a high five. Are you kidding me?
After we finish this show,
All right, you're a basketball guy.
Are you gonna go out and go like that?
You play intramurals, right? If you hit the game-winning shot, you're just gonna turn around to your teammate and just give him a high five.
Well, that's intramurals, so yeah, probably I will.
No, I am going to get ecstatic. I'm gonna go run over to my teammate Dylan Fier and I'm gonna go jump into his arm. I'm gonna start screaming. don't understand where you're coming from. You're going to score a game-winning overtime goal, and you're going to tell him to chill. What are you talking about?
One of these is good enough.
No.
Well, guys, you can put your whiteboards away because it's time for another break. But don't go away because when we come back, we give you our game of the week and final roars.
Hello, and tonight on Sandwich News, we will determine what makes a good sandwich and a bad sandwich. First, the standard sandwich. Uninspired, and frankly, a little gross. But we have here a Ray and Mike sandwich, the Cadillac of sandwiches. And if you want one, well,
Come on down to Ray and Mike's at 3030 Whitney Ave, Hamden, Connecticut. Open every day from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Qcash is accepted.
Welcome back to Bobcat Breakdown. I can't wait to get to this game of the week because it has been one of the most vicious rivalries for any Quinnipiac athletic team. It is the rugby team versus Central Washington at home here in Hamden on Sunday. Quinnipiac lost on the road to Central Washington just 10 days ago, 31-22, and of course beat them in the NIRA championship game last season. Guys, what are your thoughts on this one?
Now, this is nothing against Quinnipiac, but I have Central Washington in this game. Central Washington beat Quinnipiac in their last game 31-22, and Central Washington is 4-0 in the regular season against Quinnipiac. That's not going to stop. I'm not saying they're the better team, and I'm not saying they're going to beat them in the playoffs.
I have one question for you.
Sure.
Who did Quinnipiac beat last year in the national championship?
Central Washington.
Can you say that again?
Central Washington.
Central Washington. After the second time they played them that season, they beat Central Washington. They're playing them again, Central Washington, at home. They're beating Central Washington. I am a huge fan of this women's rugby team. They beat up on Army, 62-5. They are beating Central Washington the second time this year.
We'll see. It should be good.
Well, so much has happened this past week in QU athletics. It's now time to hear from our analysts about who they think are the winners across the board. Usually we do losers too, but today we're just going to have time for winners. Brian, start us off.
All right, I'm going with Baker Dunleavy. I mean, we talked about him before. This guy has done a fantastic job this past couple months as he's just been hired with Quinnipiac. I mean, he's got three very, very good recruits coming in next year in Ty Pickron, Matthew Belanc, and Tyrese Williams. All of these guys are coming from different regions in the Northeast, and I think that's huge. Ty Pickron coming from Philly, Belanc coming from Maryland, and Williams coming from New York City. I think that's huge to get one guy from each going into next year, and that's a start for the future to build this basketball team.
I said it before, my winner. I said it before, I'm going to say it again. Eamon Whalen. He came in Manhattan, scored that goal, and the little things that he did were just so impressive to me. Just keeping possession for Quinnipiac, like I said, making runs, the hustle plays. He is my winner for this week. First goal of the year right there, a huge goal, beautiful ball in from Matthew Taylor, and the beautiful, even better finish from Whalen. He's my winner this week, and he deserves it.
All right.
And as always, we are going to close out tonight's show with our final roars, something we're passionate about. Chris, you're up first.
Eamon Whalen is a difference maker for the Quinnipiac men's soccer team. We all know what he did against Manhattan, but by looking at the stat sheet, we know he netted the only goal of the game and had 4 shots, 2 of which were on goal. We know that he played 75 minutes of the match. However, what stood out to me, like I said before, is the things he did not show on the final stat sheet. The little things that people might take for granted, keeping possession, hustle, making runs, are all so important in soccer. That is what you get with Whalen. And Eric DaCosta has to be pleased with the former MAC Rookie of the Year as he comes off his groin injury and goes back to what he does best, helping this Bobcat team win.
Well, they say to be the best, you have to beat the best. And that is exactly what the Quinnipiac women's basketball team will have to do this season. Just this week, Quinnipiac announced the Bobcats have added Ohio State to their schedule, with Quinnipiac traveling to Columbus to face the Buckeyes They now have 5 2017 NCAA tournament teams on their calendar. Losing key postseason players Adelie Martucci and Morgan Mans will hurt, though the Bobcats have plenty of other key pieces back to compete. The out-of-conference schedule will be no easy task, but it is something Quinnipiac has earned. It's time to enter the spotlight and perform to continue to become a college basketball power.
And the women's ice hockey team is currently 4-2 overall, which may sound decent, but when they start ECAC play, the only way they're going to survive is if Melissa Samaskevich comes back to life. Sama was the ultimate stud her freshman year with 16 goals and 16 assists. Last year, we credit her dip in performance to a sophomore slump. And now 6 games in, she has just 2 assists and isn't playing to the caliber we've seen her play at. The Bobcats will have all the pieces necessary to get their name back in the rankings and make another NCAA tournament appearance, but none of that will happen without more production from Samaskevich. Well, time flies by on Breakdown, but unfortunately that is all we have time for tonight. Be sure to check out all of our content on our website, Q30TV.com, and follow us on Twitter at Q30Sports. For Brian Schwartz and Chris Stacy, I'm Sierra Goodwill. We'll see you next Tuesday.